This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar on the SmartAgriHubs DIH Innovation Services Maturity Model. My name is Frank Berkers, and I'm leading the work package 4, responsible for the development of this maturity model. Some house rules. This webinar will be recorded, and materials from the webinar will be shared after the event. Please stay muted unless you are speaking. Please close your camera unless you are presenting. You can leave questions in the chat, and thank you for living up to these rules. Before we continue introducing the agenda, I have to make some apologies. First of all, I will be going through my set of slides rather quickly to give a lot of floor to Łukasz and Stavros and Luca later on in the agenda. So we have as much as possible space for discussing practice. So that's the first apology. Second would be to apologize to Łukasz because I have misinformed him about the exact timing of this webinar. So I squeezed in a lot of his preparation time, but he managed to prepare. So that's the second apology. And the third apology, not sure if it's necessary, but normally, my colleague Christina supports me in doing the webinar, and she's on a well-deserved holiday. So I try to manage things on my own, but I'm not as proficient in that. So let's see how it goes. Meanwhile, I'll ask Stavros to keep an eye on the chat while I am presenting my part, and then we can discuss the most urgent questions during that part. So what do we have on the agenda for today? Now, I introduce the maturity model and why we think that that's useful for digital innovation hubs to use. After we've done that, Stavros will provide a walkthrough to maturity model as it's implemented, and we will discuss a practical assessment as performed by Łukasz Łowiński. Then we will have a little bit of discussion, and Luca Maini from the European BIC network will introduce you to the friendly peer review mechanism. And then we will have the closing of this webinar, and that will be about 1 hour from now. Good. Let's get it started. The Innovation Services Maturity Model, or ISSM, or Maturity Model, or Self-Assessment. It has many nicknames, but this is the formal name that we used in the deliverable and the portal. It is an integrated online assessment tool that enables you, a digital innovation hub, to evaluate your stage of maturity in relation to the services that you provide. It helps you to identify areas of attention and improvement, and to concretize the next levels of development. It should help you build an attractive profile for others to see and matchmake. It's also necessary for participation in the open call. It takes you around 30 minutes. It should be self-explanatory, although we have, of course, this webinar to introduce you to it. And there's also the forum that helps you to solve problems with it. The data that we have in the self-assessment is for your digital innovation hub purposes primarily. I have 2 asterisks added to that because there are some exceptions. So we want this data to be yours and support you. But we do ask you to share self-assessment data in the friendly peer review, which we will discuss after. In some circumstances, also share with us to help monitor the whole progress of doing self-assessments. I think that's quite natural for a project to be able to do that, but we will ask you to. And the third reason for doing that is to copy some of the self-assessment data onto your public profile. Current implementation is that all the data you enter is yours. Good. Another reason for doing self-assessment is to help identify and share best practices linked to the friendly peer review mechanism. Good. These are all reasons for engaging in the self-assessment. The Innovation Service Maturity Model for DIHs is one of the 5 basic concepts of how SmartAgriHubs works. So we provide this tool such that digital innovation hubs can make a self-assessment and identify areas where they can grow. And the portal also provides you with material to help you learn and improve your profile. And of course, the whole reason for doing that would be to have functional and performing digital innovation hubs organized in a network that is SmartAgriHubs. So for us, the maturity model is focusing on capacity building for a strong and sustainable network of digital innovation hubs in the agri-food sector. I hope that all of you are quite familiar with this figure by now. This is the digital innovation hub model, and it charts all kinds of stakeholders and participants in your ecosystem. And we consider the innovation services in 3 major categories to be delivered to and by participants in this ecosystem. So we see the innovation services as the means of interaction with the ecosystem. Now, what are these innovation services? We have charted a number of services focusing on technology development, from strategic RD&I to testing and validation. We have identified a number of business-related services ranging from incubator support to skills in education and access to finance, and ecosystem-oriented services such as community building and lobbying. Deliverable 4.2, available from the website of SmartAgriHubs, is in the Digital Innovation Hub community the first document to fully describe these innovation services. And of course, these descriptions are also captured in the portal. Okay, so the maturity model is about advancing you delivering these services to your ecosystem. That is what it's about, because we see these services as the way a digital innovation hub contributes value to its ecosystem. So if you do maturity self-assessment, you get results like this. This helps you to identify how mature you are doing on a number of generic aspects and the indicated innovation services. So this creates a profile. Now, what is this maturity built upon? It basically starts off with the standard maturity levels that we used for the mentioned innovation services. And typically in maturity models, 5 levels are being distinguished: initial or ad hoc, managed, defined, quantitatively managed, and optimizing. These are used in general, and we interpreted these in context of the innovation services. And this is what is described in the maturity model. And this is how you can help identify what level you are working on. An example I gave in this slide. So here we see 2 levels for a particular service, one being ad hoc. All existing projects are brought in by the individual portfolios of the Digital Innovation Hubs partners. And the next level would be low. there is an established track record of contractual research facilitated by the Digital Innovation Hub. Now, by looking at the differences in definition between ad hoc and low, we can think of ways to go from ad hoc to low level. For instance, by establishing this track record. Can you do that? Is this an action you can execute in the upcoming month? Can you specify expertise of the partners or ask customers why they are approaching your hub? I think the differences between these two levels, as an example, spur you to make concrete actions in achieving the next level. So these actions I indicated in the bottom left are things that you can do in a number of months, and that helps you to increase the maturity. Of course, in the other levels, from low to medium and high, etc., there will be more confronting or more intensive actions to perform to increase the level. But this is basically how it works. So identify the levels, look at the level definition, and then think of actions on how to improve the maturity. Now, onto the model again. This is basically the architecture of the maturity model. We have identified a number of generic elements on which we want you to score the maturity, being governance, experience, sustainability, and of course the services, the Digital Innovation Hub, innovation services, technology, business, and ecosystem clusters. And on top of that, we identified per service 3 major pillars. So looking at the maturity of the processes you have designed to deliver the services, looking at the human resources you use to deliver the services, and the financial sustainability associated with the specific innovation service. So this generates basically a long survey that's being programmed in the SmartAgriHubs innovation portal, and that generates this type of profile. So that is in a nutshell how the maturity model works. So the logic of all of this is indicated in this figure. You can start off initiated by yourself or driven by the requirement in the open call, and then you start the self-assessment. So you fill out the questionnaire, and once you did that, you can think of an improvement plan. Where should I improve? How can I improve? And you can use the materials on the portal as well as peer contacts to create a good improvement plan. So after that, there will be a period for you to develop and learn and improve the profile. And after a while, you can do a friendly peer review, which will be discussed later on. And then again, you can develop and learn. Now, why would you do that? Developing in learning, of course, increases your capabilities as a hub, which should drive your performance. And basically, this is the major reason for looking in a structured way at your development. After you've done that, and we do the friendly peer review, we will be identifying best practices, which not only promotes you as a digital innovation hub, it also helps us to create community value, because there are other hubs that can improve too, looking at how things are done well in practice. So that's another reason for doing this. And of course, by doing the self-assessment and by doing the friendly peer review, you get a profile which kind of emphasizes where you are good at. And we have seen that there are a number of stakeholders that are very much interested in seeing how the maturity advances, and that creates attraction for you as a digital innovation hub, which again boosts your performance. So this is basically the logic of why we're doing this self-assessment mechanism. It is structured on the innovation services and 5 standard maturity levels, and it helps you to create a profile and a good insight on where you can and should improve. Now, this is the part where I already apologized for rushing through very quickly, and that is now. So now I'd like to introduce you to my colleague Stavros. He will provide you a walkthrough to the maturity model as it's implemented in the innovation portal. Stavros, if you can introduce yourself and just say click whenever you want me to click.
Oh, okay, thank you, Frank. Thank you very much. Just before I start, because you told me to keep an eye on the comments, one question is whether the presentation will be disseminated. This is the one question we have.
Good question. Yes, indeed, we do make a PDF of this presentation, and we will also provide this in the innovation portal, as is the recording, I believe. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much for the introduction, a very detailed introduction. My name is, for the maturity model, my name is Stavros Tsitouras. I work as a senior project manager at BIOSENSE Institute. We are, of course, participating in Work Package 4 in SmartAgriHubs, and we'll be working on the model as well together with all the team. And I'm going to briefly walk you through the maturity model. So, next slide, please, Frank. Okay, excellent. So, my presentation will have 2 actually stages, to put this way. The first part is this one, which we're going to go through the login process, and then I'm going to share my screen and go to the actual model itself. So, as Frank already mentioned, this tool is for digital innovation hubs, and it's provided by SmartAgriHubs. So the first and logical thing to do is for you to be a digital innovation hub and create an account on the SmartAgriHubs page. So you go to smartagrihubs.eu/login. Oops, and now we lost the previous slide, Frank, I think. Okay, thanks. So you go log into this address, smartagrihubs.eu login, and you create an account and you verify this account through your email. And then you log in. So when you log in, you can see from the second step that you go on the right corner of the website and you click on your name and you choose organizations. So next slide, please. Okay, excellent. So, of course, if your digital innovation hub is not registered on the site, because many, for example, for BIOSENSE Institute, we have many colleagues that are registered on the site. So somebody might register your digital innovation hub. If your digital innovation hub, so it's not registered, you need to register it. If it's registered, you go to step 7, which we will see in a little bit. So how do you register your digital innovation hub? You go to organizations and you push create new organization. Excellent. Then after you create the organization, you click on it, the organization, you put a name on it, and then you choose organization type digital innovation hub. This is the 5th step. The next slide. Okay, please, Frank. Excellent. Okay. So now you choose organization, you choose digital innovation hub, and then save digital innovation hub profile. There are some other parts that you need to fill in. You will see that when you log into the site. Name of the hub, activities, the names of the people, and so on and so forth. So you save the digital innovation hub profile, and then on the last step, next slide. Okay. Okay, excellent. You go back to the organization page and you press the last growth symbol. You will see that now in a few seconds. And for the maturity self-assessment, and you're ready to start. As simple as that. So that was about it on the registration procedure. Of course, as Frank already said, there is support if you have any things with that on the forum. So now I'm going to share. Frank, can you please make me share my screen? Okay. Okay, I'm not getting anything so far. Okay. Okay, good. Frank, can you please confirm that my screen is visible?
Yes, it's visible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Okay, now we are on the main page of SmartAgriHubs. And then, as I said on my last slide, we go on the right corner here on this little person, and you see my name here. So we go to organizations to start the model. Okay. Now, you see, we have BIOSENSE Institute, which is the organization I'm working on. It's already registered as a digital innovation hub. And so now we push the maturity self-assessment icon. And we're ready to go. So we start. We see on the left side of the screen that we have the menu here. Okay. And all the information is, of course, on the main screen. So to start with, we have the terms of use. We have a brief introduction, which Frank already analyzed in a very detailed manner, so I'm not going to go through why we need to use the maturity self-assessment and what is the usability and so on and so forth. It's already very well analyzed by Frank. And here again, we have how to use information that, again, Frank already analyzed about the maturity levels. We just need to follow the instructions that you can see later on that are on the screen. All entries and results are stored, so we can pause and resume the completion process at any time. And in order to be able to monitor your maturity progress, it is advised to use the model 1 to 2 times per year. So we use the model now, and after, for example, 6 months, we do all the activities that we think are appropriate in order to improve our maturity. And after, for example, 6 months, we go through the maturity model again, and we make the comparisons where we're standing 6 months ago and where we're standing now. So down here you can see some, as Frank said, we have the forum here. You can consult the forum for information, and of course you can communicate through email if you have any questions or problems. So now some small details. When you see this icon, it's like a, let's say, like a piece of paper. We will see that later on. You can write here a note for yourself to explain, for example, why you have chosen a specific maturity level. When the piece of paper, let's put it this way, is bold now, it means that there is a comment already there. You can see that. We can see that later. And again, this lens with the eye, it's the reviewer notes. And when it is bold, there is a note from the reviewer. We will see that again. Here, we have a button for more explanations. We just push that to see. So here there's an explanation of what are the maturity levels, which Frank already explained, from ad hoc to excellent. And Frank, of course, talked about the improvement plan, the training and learning materials, which are already there on the website. In order to improve your maturity, there are specific training and learning materials. And of course, we will also have the friendly peer review that EBN will explain briefly later on in the presentation. And now we can get started. We push the get started button, and we start on the general digital innovation hub maturity, which has to do with the overall digital innovation hub activity. And the general maturity is not connected with any specific service. On the left menu, you can see we have all the things that we're gonna go through. So the first thing that we're looking at is governance. Just before I start, I mentioned earlier that you see here, you have the reviewer note. Of course, the reviewer note is empty because there's no review yet. And you have this one, which is the note that you keep for yourself. You see now that it's not bold. So now we can write here, for example, something, text, okay. And we just click anywhere, and you see now this is bold, and you see the note you for yourself. Now it's stored. This is how it works. Very simple and very straightforward. Here now we have the general digital innovation hub maturity. The first thing that we're looking at is the governance. Here for every level, maturity level, you see ad hoc, low, intermediate, high, and excellent. There are a text that you can read and to see which maturity level do you think it's appropriate to choose. We try to keep the text as short as possible. Sometimes are shorter, sometimes are bigger, but the description cannot be very, very small to put it this way, so sometimes the text will be a little bit long. So for instance, here in the government, we can have a look, for example, the first level with the ad hoc. It's like the DRL Levels hubs operates as a project. The activities are conducted ad hoc without formal procedures, and the distribution of responsibility the service is organized on a case-by-case basis. This is an ad hoc description. And for example, in the excellent description, it says that the DRL Levels hub has a separate legal identity and dedicated employees, and so on and so forth. So you need to read the description and choose the appropriate level. For instance, here we can choose intermediate. We can go to the next step, and we see the general DRL Levels hub maturity in terms of experience. This is very straightforward. Again, here we see the nodes and so on and so forth. For example, ad hoc, it's a not fully functional digital innovation hub, and the experience excellence that the digital innovation hub has more than 24 months experience. So this has to do actually with how many years, months the digital innovation hub is active. So we choose, for instance, here we can choose excellent more than 24 months, and this is the case for BIOSENSE. The next step, we can go to the menu either by the left menu here or with the next step. So it's a business plan. This has to do whether the digital innovation hub has a business plan and how this business plan is incorporated and implemented, the levels here. For instance, we choose here intermediate. I'm not going to go through all the text and read them now here because it's going to take us a lot of time to do so, and I don't think this is the point. So here we choose intermediate. In the next step, we go into the income generation. This has to do whether the digital innovation hub generates income or not. It's a very important thing that the digital innovation hub can be self-sufficient. So here, for instance, we choose like a high maturity in the income, that the digital innovation hub is marginally profitable and requires less public funding to support its daily operation. This is the high level. The next step would be to identify how many customers or paying members does the digital innovation hub have. We mentioned that we perceive digital innovation hubs as business, to put it this way. So this is what the question is about. The question about paying members has to do with the business models. Some digital innovation hubs might choose to have as a business model paying memberships. So either we choose the customers or the paying members. For example, here we choose low, that we have between 5 and 10 paying members or customers. The next general maturity aspect is the ecosystem. So if the digital innovation hub have established partnerships, and in which degree. For instance, here we can choose low, that the digital innovation hub has laid the basis for relationships and some partnerships, mainly on operational matters. For instance, here the excellent level would be that the digital innovation hub has relationship with local, regional, national, and international stakeholders. So it means that our digital innovation hub operates all over Europe or all over the world. The next step is the general maturity in terms of infrastructure. So, do we have technological infrastructure in order to provide to our partners? We choose here, for instance, low, that we have some basic technology infrastructure which is available, but most of the services require infrastructure must be subcontracted. So we have customers, but we cannot please them all with our infrastructure. The next step is a strategic RDI. Again, here, for instance, we can choose like high, that we have joined a contractual research process with the regular participation of regional stakeholders. And so RDIs are some of our main activity. The next part is the technology fields. So how many actual technology fields are digital innovation hub covers? When we're talking about technology fields, for instance, we're talking about robotics, nanotechnology, sensoring technology, and so on and so forth. So a digital innovation hub, depending on its nature, can cover a lot of technologies. Here, for instance, we can choose something like intermediate, that we cover between 6 and 10 different technological fields. And the last, it's the TRL levels. I have to say here that the TRL levels, which is technology readiness levels of your digital innovation hubs, are not rated. So we just mention them here. It's not something that it's rated. We use the TRL system, to put it this way, because this is the one that it's used by the European Commission in European projects. So the DRL levels are 9. We start from 1, which is the basic principles observed, which is actually an idea, to put it this way. And the final DRL level is 9, which is actual system proven in operational environment. So level 9 would be a service or a product or something that is ready to go on the market. Our digital innovation hub, here you can choose all of them, or 3 of them, or 4 of them. So it's a free choice. Here, in our case, we choose 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, for example. And that's about it with the general digital innovation hub maturity. So now that we have all the information, we go to the next step, and now we go to the services. So we see now what the services our digital innovation hub offers. As Frank has already explained, we have 3 types of services: ecosystem services, business services, technology development and adoption services, and business services. So here for the you can see here this button. We can push that button, hide all descriptions. So we can hide all the descriptions here. Now for the ecosystem, here we are free to choose from this menu here which services our digital innovation hub provides. For instance, for the ecosystem, we have community building. We read the description and we decide whether we have this service. Let's say that we do. Strategy development. Let's say that we don't. For example, ecosystem learning. We choose that our digital innovation hub really offers this service. And the presentation and promotion, no, we don't offer this service. We go to technology development and adoption services. Strategic RDI is one service. We read the description, we decide that our digital innovation hub does not offer this service. Contract research the same, but technical support and scale up, yes, our digital innovation hub offers this service. And provision of technology infrastructure is another service that we say that our digital innovation hub offers, also as well as testing and validation. And for the business services, we have incubation and acceleration support. We know that our digital innovation hub offers this kind of service. Access to finance as well, we offer this service. Skills and education, we don't provide this service for the time being, so we don't choose it. Project development, yes, we provide the service. And offer housing, let's say that we don't provide the service. Of course, an important thing to mention here is that this service and the categories cannot fit all the possible services that this innovation hub can offer. And it was, of course, impossible to include all the possible services that are out there. So a digital innovation hub might offer a service that's not here. Of course, there is a solution for that as well. We have this part here, which is called add new service. So here we can add a service that it's not listed on the predefined service that I mentioned earlier. So here we can write, for example, one service test, for instance, and we leave that here and it's stored, and we will see that in the end. So we add here the services. So we go to the next step. After we chosen the services, we now go to the maturity of the service and the activities. You can see now, it's very important, you can see now on the left menu under the services that all the services that we have already chosen are now here. So we can see already which service we chosen: community, ecosystem learning, and so on. So for the first service that we said that we offer, community building, we need to choose activities for this service. Every service has some sorts of activities. Of course, this choice helps us to define the scope for the service more clearly when we fill out the assessment. But of course, this is not rated. We just see the activities. Here again, we can hide the descriptions or leave it. So for community building, let's say that we offer this, that we have this kind of activities: scouting, and ecosystem analysis, ecosystem building. We skip creating awareness, brokerage, and so on and so forth. Dissemination, for example, we choose. Again, we can add more activities here in the same way that we added the services. So we write, for instance, activity, okay, and we have it here. And after we have chosen the activities, we go to the core of the model, which is the maturity level for the service. So for the community building service, we see here, we choose the maturity level from ad hoc to excellent. We read the description and we decide. We say, for instance, that it's low. And again, as Frank already described, we also have the maturity levels per pillar for the service. So we have these 3 pillars, which is the processes here, the human resources, and the financial sustainability. As you scroll here through the stars, from 1 to ad hoc to 5 to excellent, you can see here the description. So for each maturity level you want to choose, you see the description. So we choose, for instance, here this, and we have the description. For human resources pillar, we, for instance, are here. And for finance sustainability, let's say that we're ad hoc and we don't generate any income. I have to say here that the maturity levels per pillar, the descriptions, are more or less the same for all the services. Okay, so now that we have chosen that, we go to the next step. We finish with the community building. And we go to the next service that we have chosen. It's ecosystem learning. So again, the procedure is similar. So we have here this activity, we choose that activity, we can add more activities, and then again, we go to the maturity level for this service, and let's say that we have a high maturity here, and for the pillars for this service, we have again a high maturity for the processes, a high maturity for resources, and again a high maturity for financial sustainability. And then we continue again with all the services. I'm not going to go through everything now because our time is limited. So let's briefly randomly choose some levels here, okay, just to go through the model and have the results available quickly. Again, here one activity here, some maturity levels briefly here. Here, of course, you can see a description of every pillar here with the question mark. So it tells you that this pillar identifies the established processes, the human resources pillar, the financial sustainability pillar. You have information everywhere for everything. And I think that makes the tool very, very convenient to use. Here again, we put some description, and again, here the pillars. Next step, again, one activity. And let's say here that we're not good at all at that activity. So incubator and acceleration support, we choose here again. And again, this is high here. Okay, access to finance. And we're going through the end of the activities that we've chosen. Next step, the last one. Okay, now we're done. So after finishing filling the maturity levels, we go to the results page. Okay, so here we have a button download and PDF. I will show you that later on. And we start, first of all, we start with the spidergram, as Frank already showed in his presentation. So we can see here the general digital investment maturity, the spidergram, and the services spidergram. So here we have all the results in a very, very analytical, detailed manner. So we have the general digital investment maturity overall score and results, which is 3.11, which is high. Here you can see the maturity level in all the general digital innovation hub activities, to put it this way: governance, experience, ecosystem. We can see all the information here. So we can see how this improves over time in a very, very detailed manner. So we have the general maturity 3.11, which is a high level. We have here the DRL levels, just to know which the DRL levels that our digital innovation hub is dealing with, to put it this way. And then we have the maturity levels per service, for the services that we have chosen, of course. So now we can see that for the ecosystem services, we have community building low, for instance, ecosystem learning high, and so on and so forth. For the technology development, we have an overall 2.67 score for the technology development services, and for the specific services, we again have the score here. The same is valid for business service, 2.67. And in the end, we have the maturity levels per service, overall score and result, which is the medium of all of this, the average of all of this, sorry, which is 2.75, intermediate. Again then, here we have the results levels per pillar. Again, for the ecosystem, community building, for the processes, for the human resources, for the financial sustainability, a very detailed analysis here. Technology development and business services. Again, we have all the results here, and the overall maturity level per pillar and results, it's 2.67 intermediate. So after having all the detailed results here, we have the final table, to put it this way, which is the Digital Innovation Hub overall maturity, which takes the results of the three different sectors that we've seen so far. So the general Digital Innovation Hub maturity, which was 3-point level high, the maturity levels per service, which was intermediate, and the maturity levels per pillar. And then we have the average, which is the overall maturity, which is 2.84, which is intermediate. And now, so these are the results. In the end, we have the activities per service. So if you see now, the bold are the activities that we have chosen, and these ones are the activities that we haven't chosen. We don't do that, these activities. The same is with ecosystem learning and so on and so forth. So you see here the additional services that we have put now in the before. It's the service that we put before, and here we have the services that are not offered. Here we can see what services we don't offer. We can see that as well here. And in the end, I would like to show you and finish this walkthrough. It's just you push this download PDF button, and you see the download is started. So here you can see that you can have all the results in a PDF document, easy to store, easy to read, easy to share. And that's about it from my side. I hope that I didn't spend too much time on it. Thank you. Frank, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free.
Yes. Thank you, Stavros. I think it was a swift and proper introduction of how the tool works. I have no questions from the chat. I'd like to add just a few comments or clarifications. One, do we want all services to be scored on a level 5, the excellent level? No, it's not necessary per se to have all services and all dimensions scored on to have that ambition to go to level 5. It's the matter of identifying where do I stand and how can I improve. Okay. So that's not per se an ambition to go to level 5. As Stavros already showed, do you need to tick on all of the services? No, you don't. You don't have to provide all the services. However, consider to what extent your ecosystem would benefit from having these offered. The same thing applies for the activities. Now, we have seen the walkthrough of the maturity model in the portal. I now like to give the floor to Łukasz because he has executed the maturity model, the self-assessment, in more detail for his Digital Innovation Hub, and he wants to share with us the results of his Digital Innovation Hub. Łukasz, can you unmute yourself and...
Yes, I'm already on mute. Do you hear me?
Yes. Excellent.
I hope it is. Thank you, Frank, for the apology from the beginning, but I'm in the middle of nowhere, but with the fine internet connection, and I will try my best to present the results of my example of maturity model practice. My name is Łukasz Łowiński, and I'm representing Digital Innovation Hub Agro Poland, and also I'm also part of the Łukasiewicz Research Network Industrial Institute of Agriculture Engineering, which is also part of founders of Digital Innovation Hub Agro Poland. We were created an initiative in early 2018 with two competence centers. One was Łukasiewicz Research Network, and second was Poznań Supercomputing and Networking Center. And our two pro-oriented implementation competence centers are located in Poznań, so establishing a close cooperation went very smoothly. We are prepared the service for agriculture and food sector clients, defining their problems, needs from producer and user perspective, and to transfer various technologies to meet their needs. By joining forces, highly specialized competence centers, and building competences on the basis on the many projects implemented so far for the agricultural sector, we develop a one-stop shop to service micro, small, medium, and even large companies. Since 2019, we are connected with HPC for Poland, an European-scale DIH for Industry 4.0 services, which develops and implements a number of technologies like HPC, AI, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, virtual reality implementation, and many more. And now we are provide our partners new possibilities and complex services based on the implementation, based on that Industry 4.0 projects already made. So this is why we are thinking on how to prepare for our partners and for companies which are going to us with some questions, more complex and more advanced solutions. Next slide, please. Thank you. As you may see, we are rely mostly on test before invest philosophy, and we, depending on the needs and the requirements of the companies, we are able to offer a package of services consistent with the product development, from the idea evolution through project financing, prototype design, piloting, testing, pre-implementation analysis, and also even further product and service development. We must not forget about the development of skills in the enterprises, especially digital, and helping in the development of infrastructure. We also help with that. From software, software implementation, also because providing the new software for the companies is very important also for us, because we are invest in that, and the companies will also be on the top if their product may be with the most appropriate impact on the market. We also create for them some new implementation of infrastructure like autonomous high storage warehouses. We also do that. And we also supply the ecosystem in content of the partners, and establishing the complement scenarios for the building the product portfolio, where we have two partners which may provide services which are complement, and then after this process of looking of beneficiary of the implementation of this two services, we may provide a product which will be combining from these two services to have additional effect. Why I'm talking about this? Please, next slide. I'm talking about this because the maturity model can very accurately indicate in which direction this should develop, or which partner to join to DIH, to enrich its offer, to make it as complete as possible, one-stop shop idea. As you may see, this general DIH maturity and services effect is based on our experiment took more than half a year ago, before the COVID time, and of course before all the pandemic, where this time show us our development we are mostly in technical direction, infrastructure and proof of concept. This is related to the acquisition of project that finance the further activity of DIH, and of course our institutes which are also involved in that. By implementing a large number of projects, we are invited to prepare national funded calls, and we are participating in defining the country policy in the field of technology development. This is something what is not involved that, but the impact on the governments from our side is higher now. And through the projects, we are going to the governments, and we also establish more and more the experience on that. I recommended preparing a maturity model at least every 4 to 6 months, or after significant changes in the functioning of DIH, because the one you currently see is no longer valid after the COVID. COVID time also showed us how important it is to quickly adapt to changing conditions and how quickly technologies and ideas of factories or companies must be implemented. From our side, some of the implementation we already have up after 1 or 2 months now. So we see how important it is. And if you think to adapting to these processes, then some of the information on this maturity model assessment is changing or developing very quickly. So this is why I propose to do it even more than two times per year. The information taken from the maturity model is very clear for me, and it's good base to develop the progress plan for DIH, because you may see in which actions you need more complex actions to get a more complex offer for the companies. And of course, you need some patience to go through that tool, because it took 45 minutes, maybe longer, maybe 1 hour to go through all of these parts. But I recommend it to do this as complex as possible, not to miss any part, because this is very, very good to see on the end the lag or the gap where you or your DIH maybe go, and see the possibility of showing additional service based on that feature. Our DIH is on the level 3 of this maturity model, but we had a partner like HPC for Poland, which are in the level 5 on it, and this is, for us, it's very fine, because we may use the, let's say, some of the services based on the second DIH, and we can develop faster and to use the competences that we have not yet developed significantly. So this is why I recommend that way we may go. And now we also see after COVID time where our progress should be going. Thank you, Frank.
Yes, thank you, Łukasz. This is very, very interesting, and say, as a major explanation for having this, say, a specific profile. You mentioned that you basically also collaborate with the HPC4 Digital Innovation Hub that kind of complements on the services that you are not so mature in currently. So I think this is very indeed confirming that it's not necessary per se to be level 5 on all services if you have partners that can complement you.
I think almost impossible is to be on level 5 in every direction, because it took a lot of effort, it took a lot of man hours, it took a lot of money to be the best in each task. It's better to go through the one or two parts where you are the best in, and you have the score of 5. And the rest of the activities we may also provide by the ecosystem, by the other DIHs, which are complementary, which we have common with. I agree with that this
I am afraid we lost Łukasz, or did you all lose me? Huh. We have
no, we lost Łukasz. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'd like to express my thanks to Łukasz for being so open in sharing this profile. We have one question from Sergio Mayo Macias, asking whether we are aware of other models or methodologies for digital innovation at maturity assessment, No, we have been inspired, of course, by, say, the traditional maturity assessments, and also we were in touch with the DNET project, Coordination and Support Act for All Digital Innovation Hub networks, and by the time of developing, there were no other initiatives for maturity assessment. Yeah, so that's basically the question there. Now, with an eye on the time, I'd like to introduce you to Luca. Luca, can you join in?
Yes.
And
hi.
briefly...
Can you hear me? Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Luca Maini. I'm a research officer at the European Big Network, a network of around 130 quality certified innovation centers, incubators, and other business support organizations. EBN is working on Work Package 2 and Work Package 4, specifically in the SmartAgriHubs project. And today I would like to give you a first overview of the friendly peer review mechanism and the idea behind it. We believe that the friendly peer review mechanism aligns very much with the agenda of Work Package 4, and it looks at the continuous improvement of the digital innovation hubs. The mechanism itself aims to promote greater collaboration and foster cross-fertilization of initiatives. It aims to enhance the quality and the validity of the innovation services maturity model. And lastly, the mechanism will help the SmartAgriHubs projects to identify best practices, share know-how, and methodologies. You can see in the slide that is shown now a timeline, and we are now in the pilot stage of the initiative, and we plan to launch an offer to all digital innovation hubs in Q3, so September, October of 2020, together with a webinar to be organized in November 2020. Few words, few practical information on the timeline of activities. In advance to the review, the digital innovation hubs will be asked to complete the self-assessment tool and to develop a structured improvement plan. The digital innovation hubs will be able to select another organization on the platform from the reviewer pool and ask for a review. Once the reviewer accepts the invitation and the organization pick a date for the review, we advise that the reviewer and the reviewee share documents such as the results of their assessment tool and, if possible, annual reports or organizational structure, for example, in order to get acquainted. The day of the review, we expect the reviewer to steer the conversation, mainly around the results of the self-assessment tool, discuss, for example, the improvement plan, but also share best practices. And we see it as a learning exchange, a learning experience. After the review, we ask the reviewer to complete a template, which we provide and drafted, whilst the reviewee enters automatically the reviewer pool, and then it can be selected from another organization in the platform. Finally, we suggest that the organization organize follow-up calls in order to verify improvement and steer progress throughout the DIH journey. The documents and the case studies collected through this initiative will help the SmartAgriHubs projects to identify best practices, leaving room for further learning and improvement. So that's the friendly peer review mechanism in a nutshell, and we look forward to launching it, and thank you very much for now. Frank, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Luca, for this very brief introduction in the friendly peer review mechanism, which we are working on to complement the self-assessments. So now I'm closing off. It's 3 o'clock. Thank you very much. I encourage you to do as much as possible assessments and learn about your digital innovation hub. In the future, we will be implementing the improvement plan support, so help you create an improvement plan, link the maturity model further with the learning material and the observatory that's being developed, and also identify and share best practices of Digital Innovation Hub management in our beloved SmartAgriHubs community. So thank you for having attention. I think the maturity model is really an outstanding new feature that can benefit the Digital Innovation Hubs. And I'm looking forward to your feedback of applying that in practice. Take care. Here are some upcoming webinars that we have. In a week from now, July 16th, we have one on ecosystem assessment. How can you assess your ecosystem, your relationships that are really detrimental, key to the Digital Innovation Hub. And in October and November, we have some more coming up for you. Thank you very much for your attention and hope to see you soon. Stay healthy. Thank you.